Poison oak grows mostly along the west coast of Canada and the US, but it also made quite a stir in London in the early 1800s, thanks to a man named David Douglas.
Douglas was one of the famous early botanists who explored the Pacific coast. He was Scottish. He was sent over by the Royal Horticultural Society. The most notorious thing he discovered was poison oak. He got that up in British Columbia. But his job was just to box stuff up and send it back to be distributed, to be grown in the Victorian gardens. So he dutifully packed up the poison oak and sent it back, and pretty color. You know, the women planted it in their gardens. Of course, they all got the rash, which was attributed to hysterical female disorders. It seems like you can't get away from poison oak in California, and there's a good reason for it. It's our most common native shrub. It's easy to recognize. Of course, there's a couple of poems that help us. One of them, leaves of three, let it be, green in summer, red in fall, in the winter, no leaves at all. And oftentimes you'll find it growing in thickets with our native blackberry, which also has leaves of three, and thorns. And of course, that's when the other poem comes in, leaves of three, let it be. If it's hairy, it's a berry, but if it's shiny, watch your hiney.
They can grow in a lot of different forms. They can be a little twig coming up in grassland. They can be a shrub all the way up to a small tree size, and they can go up tree trunks in large vines, which eventually become small trees themselves. The harder time to pick them out is when they've lost their leaves. They'll be bare with these steep branchlets coming across them, and you really just don't want to touch the bare branches. The leaves have most of the oils, but it's rubbed off onto the branches too, and if you stumble into a thicket of bare branches not knowing what it is, you can really end up with a big reaction.
And poison oaks, well, it's not really an oak, it's in another family altogether, related to mangoes and cashews. And the oil that gives most people a very bad skin rash, urushiol, that's in poison oak, it's not in these other two relatives, but they're related oils. Many people can't eat mangoes without getting a rash on their face, mango mouth. And when you go to the store to buy cashews, notice you can never buy cashews in the shell. They've always been shelled and washed for you. There's a caustic oil inside a cashew shell. The only thing that's really safe on poison oak are the flowers. Pretty white flowers in the springtime. They smell great, but when you bend down to take a whiff, you're liable to get more than you bargained for. You really have to touch poison oak. You don't get it from touching somebody else's rash. You don't get it from breathing air around poison oak. The only exception being if there's a fire. The oil can vaporize and then come down as droplets. So sometimes firemen get it very badly. They can get it in their lungs. Everybody gets one free exposure. Problem is you don't know when that's been. And what happens, the oil soaks into your skin and you start to make antibodies. And these antibodies, these lymphocytes, then hang out in your lymph nodes and they wait. Now some people can go through poison oak for years and years and they never get a rise out of those antibodies. Some people, next time they go through, out come the antibodies, and that's what causes the rash. Once you're sensitized, you usually get it every time after that. That's our sad story of poison oak, and everybody's got their own war tales to tell.
I haven't found anyone who actually likes poison oak, but Linda Yamani, who's of Rumsian Ohlone descent, has a less human-centered view than most. In her book, In Full View, Yamani says, "Over the years, I've seen deer grazing in poison oak thickets. For them, it is not an enemy, but a sustaining friend. Likewise, deer have sustained California Indian people for uncounted generations. So I have learned to embrace poison oak, if only figuratively, appreciating it as a friend of a friend, and accepting that there is value in all things, even if I cannot see it."